Speak not in the ears of a fool, for he will despise the wisdom of thy words. For as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. Apply thine heart unto instruction, and thine ears to the words of knowledge. For as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. For a whore is a deep ditch, and a strange woman is a narrow pit. For as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. Who hath woe? Who hath sorrow? Who hath contentions? Who hath babbling? For as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. Speak not in the ears of a fool, for he will despise the wisdom of thy words. For as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. When shall I awake? I will seek it yet again.
This is Infants on Thrones, the philosophies of men mingled with humor. We are the core.
Welcome back to Infants on Thrones. I'm Glenn Ostland, and this is episode 581, Conversations with Quad, Part 2, where I have another imaginary conversation with my imaginary inner self and then rip those ideas to shreds with Tom Perry. And this time, we're also joined by Brady Bluhm as well, and we talk about imagination and fiction and reality and free will and truth and, of course, Joseph Smith. And none of this stuff was influenced by any kind of plant medicine. I just want to be clear up front. None of this was inspired by plant medicine of any kind, except for maybe the stuff about Joseph Smith. But we'll get to that. But first, let's start with another imaginary conversation with Quad. Enjoy. Hello? Hello? Hey, are you there?
I'm always here.
That's pretty creepy,
Creepy or not, it's true.
Yeah, okay, whatever. Look, I talked with a friend of mine last night about that whole eternal justice thing that we talked about yesterday.
Yes, I know. I was there too.
Of course you were.
I'm always.
Here, there, everywhere. Yes, I know. You keep telling me that.
More often than you know.
See, you're doing it again. Geez, look, I enjoyed some of the things that we talked about yesterday. But you are so smug and condescending. That's what I wanted to talk to you about.
I know.
Knock it off. It's this whole elitist attitude thing. That smug condescension.
Yes? What about it?
It's annoying.
I know that too.
Well, could you maybe tone it down a bit? Or maybe tone it down a lot?
I don't think so.
Oh yeah? Why not?
Because I'm not doing it. You are.
Oh, great. So it's my fault that you're annoying and condescending as hell.
Basically, yes.
All right, okay. Go ahead. Enlighten me. So how is it my fault?
Who are you?
What?
Who are you? You can't expect me to talk about what is your fault without first getting on the same page about what the "your" in that sentence actually means. Can you?
Ugh.
Okay, fine. I'll do it for you then. You are a human being, a Homo sapien, one of hundreds of billions that has ever lived on this planet.
Really? I didn't know that.
No, I don't think you really did. You don't really know the process of evolution that started with a single-celled life form on this planet. You don't really understand the difference between the atoms and subatomic energy that makes you who you are, and the personality or ego that is simply one result of all of that intelligent, self-directed, subatomic cooperation. And yet, you identify as being you, when it is actually only a very small and significantly insignificant result of who and what you really are. You don't really understand all the cultural processes, including the religion that you grew up in, that you've spent so much time critiquing and dissecting and deconstructing. All of those man-made
Is there another kind?
beliefs and traditions that have shaped your worldview and influenced the way that you create meaning in this world. There are so many things going on right now that you're just not aware of and cannot completely understand. Not to mention all of the intricate processes that led up to the origin of life on this planet, and the intricate processes that led up to those processes, or the way in which your daily experiences impact and are influenced by the stuff that you're made from, which, sorry, I know you're going to hate this next part, would totally blow your mind if you could actually see and understand it all.
Great. More condescension. Quit treating me like an infant. Just tell me.
I will. In fact, I am. But let's change gears then. That's you. But who am I?
Really? We're gonna play that game again?
Only if you want to.
Fine. You are you, the Ichiban whatever of infinite who gives a shit.
Nice. You remembered, sort of. So let's condescendingly simplify it then and just call me your imagination.
You're my imagination?
Essentially, yes.
Oh, great. So after all this far-out condescending mumbo-jumbo, you are just my imagination?
Pretty much, yeah. But I'm also that thing that drives your imagination. That thing that explores and questions and probes the limits of your current understanding. All I was trying to do yesterday was to show you that you have those limits, and that on the other side of those limits are infinite possibilities to explore. And you can do it anytime you want. Or not, but it's all with your imagination. Does that still sound condescending to you?
Yeah, it still does.
Why?
Because with everything that you say to me, you're treating me like I'm an idiot.
Are you an idiot?
No.
Then what are you?
I'm a Homo sapien, one of billions and billions, remember?
Of course I remember. So what does that mean to you?
Just tell me what you want to tell me already.
With pleasure. Since you are clearly not an idiot, you recognize that the evolution of life didn't just follow a single path from a single-celled organism to Homo sapien, right? You are at least nominally aware of the billions of other forms of life all around you, even if you have a very little understanding or appreciation for how they experience their existence in and their awareness of this world. You Homo sapiens are pretty arrogant and myopic, which, if you're going to be honest with yourself, is the real reason you're projecting your own smug condescension onto me, your imagination. And since you're not an idiot, you must recognize the overwhelming probability that life will continue to evolve even after Homo sapiens go the way of the dodo, right? Furthermore, you must already recognize and fully accept the equally overwhelming probability that that process of evolution has happened billions and billions of times already on billions of other planets like your Earth, right? Because to think that it only happens here and now, and that this is the first and or only time it has ever happened anywhere in the ever-expanding universe that you are a significantly insignificant piece of, would be pretty smug and arrogant. And we wouldn't want to be those things, would we? I mean, since you're not an idiot and all. And so you must also recognize that life always evolves anywhere it exists in a pressure cooker of hostility. It adapts due to hostility. It thrives due to hostility. Hostility is the there must needs be opposition in all things, push and pull secret sauce that results in increased ability and intelligence and consciousness. And it works, quite naturally, very much the way that you want justice to eradicate all forms of hostility in the world. Which is why accepting the reality of hostility, and yikes, the actual value of it, is not the same thing as surrendering to it. Although, surrender is always the end result. You call it death, you call it suffering, but through that marvelously intricate process of evolution that makes you who you are, you pass along information and intelligence to the next generation of life. And that makes your surrender, aka sacrifice, thank you, Jesus Myth, it makes that surrender mean something significant. Like the way a fullback takes the brunt of a defensive end to clear a path for his running back. to gain at least a few yards before he's tackled by a cornerback or safety. This process that you're a part of always, eventually, ultimately creates forms of life wherever it happens in the universe that evolve to levels of intelligence and consciousness and connections that Homo sapiens can barely perceive of today, even with very healthy, condescending imaginations like me. So, did I answer your question?
What question?
You wanted to know why I was so condescending.
No, I still don't get it, and I still don't like it. You talk in circles, and you go on wishy-washy tangents and treat me like a myopic idiot who's doing all this to myself through my own imagination. You're still just completely condescending and annoying as hell.
Sounds like you're struggling against some significant hostility there, buddy. Keep it up. A world of infinite possibility awaits you, and eventually, touchdown. Unless, of course, you punt.
Oh, brother.
Amen to that, my father.
Okay, whatever. That's enough for today. You can go back to doing whatever it is that you do when you aren't annoying me.
But that's what I always do.
Fine, then I'll just stop listening again.
Join the club. Do what you gotta do. I'm not going anywhere.
Condescending to the very end, aren't you?
Yes, always. Except that there actually is no end.
There is for me. See ya!
Good luck with that.
They're like my sleep headphones. I haven't used them in forever. But for whatever reason, my wireless headphones weren't working. So I'm like, well, I'm wearing a headband.
So the headband just holds the earbuds in?
Yeah, they're just like flat little earbuds that are inside of the headband.
Oh, so that you can sleep on it without poking out your eardrum.
Yeah, and you can like hypnotize yourself with secret subliminal messages and things, you know?
Oh, as if we don't do that every single day of our waking lives anyway, Brady Bluhm. All hypnotized. All right, so we are gathered here together tonight, a quorum of three, Tom and Brady and me, to discuss more channeled writing. This is like super channeled writing of Conversations with Quad Part 2. And I wrote this immediately the day after we recorded that last one, Tom.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is why you recognized.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just skimming, and there's already sighs and rolling eyes, so you know that, yeah, he's...
So what you said to me before we started recording was, yeah, there was a much stronger Tom voice channeled through this one.
Yeah, there seemed to be. And you saying, oh, yeah, I wrote this the day after we recorded, so your voice was definitely in my head a lot more
for
this
sure.
time.
Yeah, and it's kind of a response to the things that we talked about before. And
I can never tell if that's a good thing or not, to have my voice in anyone's head, let alone yours. But
let alone your own, Tom.
Exactly. Yeah,
right.
More true than that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So before we start reading through this thing, Brady, you listened to the first one and you read the first one. Did you have anything that you wanted to comment on, just to kind of get you grounded into this whole make-believe imagination game that we're playing right now?
Well, I'm all about make-believe and imagination. I enjoyed your guys' conversation, and Tom, I loved some of your reactions. I was laughing out loud. Me too. Your conversation.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah.
I enjoyed the process, and I enjoy the idea behind this too, Glenn. Just like tapping into this inner voice and having that come up in an actual cognitive way, right? Like, and being able to converse with it. So I think it's a fun idea to explore. So
well, and the inner voice in this, I don't want to give it away right now, but the inner voice in this one kind of reveals a little bit more about what it is. And I mean, that's something that came out as we talked about, but let's read it and we'll talk about it as we go through it. And just so that people know, you know, if they recall the conversation, Brady, that we had back, I think it was January, where you talked about your favorite meditation practice that involves some plant medicines in a basement.
Yes.
That's not how I'm writing these things, just in case people are curious.
Well, that's a shame.
I know. It just kind of happens in the morning when I wake up and I start thinking about things. So I've written 4 of them now, but
4 of these?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at some point, there's nothing in your head that's like, yeah, I should probably not write any more of these.
That's not the case. Of course it is.
Okay. All right.
Of course. I'm self-critical all the time and think, what the hell am I doing? This is stupid. Why am I being stupid?
Yeah. Then
why am I putting that out? Why am I putting my own stupid out for other people to be
criticize
and criticize and all these other things? And like, so it's fun.
So remind me. So we're going to be reading this and then we'll do commentary throughout, right?
Yeah, we can do it like SmackDown style. We don't have to wait until it's done.
Because we don't want to, I didn't know if we needed to, let the organic thing go as we go. It's a sacred thing as we read it.
No.
And then we'll smack it.
What about the flow of quad though? Like you got to let that channel out.
That's true.
Yeah. So I think Brady, I would like you to play the voice of quad in this one. And it's not, it's not very well marked how it, like demarcated this script.
No. Yeah.
But it starts with Tom. so Tom, what I was picturing as this conversation started, because it was the day after the last one that we did, I was picturing you kind of like being, I'm not done with this. There's still things that I want to find out about this because this is stupid and it's bugging me and I want to put it to bed. And so this one starts off, Tom, with your character, because now it's become the story of Tom.
This is so weird, dude.
This is weird.
So weird.
But so you're starting because you're like, all right, hello, are you there? And we'll go with Brady being the voice.
And so you're gonna be the commentator. You're gonna be the observer on this.
Yeah, I mean, when you guys want to stop and have questions, or if there's things I want to chime in, yeah.
Glenn, when this voice speaks to you, can you give me some direction on like what do you hear?
I don't hear anything. I just think. And it's funny because there's times where I just get these ideas and they start coming to me, and I'm doing this on my phone, right? So I'm just like typing with my thumb, and I'll have somebody text me or call me, and I'm like, shit, you're interrupting the flow. I don't want to forget. I'm in it, man. I'm in the flow. So
don't interrupt the rhythm. All right. Yeah. So do we get to know where Quad, that name, came from, or is this going to be something revealed throughout or later?
No, I mean, it's because I read this book, or I started reading this book called Conversations with God. And so when I was thinking of like, what would I call something like this? I mean, if you go back probably like 10 or 15 years ago, I think even before Mormon Expression, I started writing this book called The Skeptic and the Believer, that the way that I pictured it was, like the one angel on one shoulder and the one devil on the other shoulder, and they're having a conversation back and forth about things. So it's kind of the same type of thing, except instead of two devils on a shoulder, it's just like this inner conversation with or whatever. And so instead of
the precursors of schizophrenia, right?
Maybe that might be documented for the world to see.
Who knows? Multiple personality disorder. All right.
Yes. But yeah, so the conversations with Quad, I wanted it to rhyme with God. And the first thing that came to my mind was Todd. And I thought, well, that doesn't really mean anything. It just rhymes with God. But then I thought about like the quantum energy realm stuff that I've been interested in lately. So I put the Qua in front of it. So it's Conversations with Quad. That's where it came from. But it's still just kind of an arbitrary title.
I was just worried it was you trying to break the 3 pattern by saying it's 4.
Quad. Oh, nice. I like that.
Yeah, could you throw triple combination in the name there somewhere too?
It is kind of like Conversations with your Quad. I like it. 4 books of scripture of Mormonism: the Book of Mormon, the Pearl of Great Price, which is actually more than one book, the Doctrine and Covenants, and then the Holy Bible, which is Old Testament and New Testament.
King James Version.
Yeah. All right. Go ahead and start us off, Tom.
All right. Hello. Are you there?
I'm always here.
Of course you are. All right. That's pretty creepy,
Creepy or not, it's true.
Yeah, okay, whatever. Look, I talked with a friend of mine last night about that whole eternal justice thing that we talked about yesterday.
Yes, I know. I was there too.
course you were.
I'm always.
Here, there, everywhere. Yeah, I know. You keep telling me that.
More often than you know.
This is fun. I like hearing you guys. Like, Tom, you're like really nailing it, and Brady's like, I am the loving voice of Jesus.
No. That's not what it sounds like. He's doing the robot voice or whatever. This tone is already starting to irritate me.
Well, I think that's the point.
Yeah, I know that's the point. That's why I'm digging it. I'm digging it.
All right. More often than you know.
See, you're doing it again. Jeez. Look, I enjoyed some of the things we talked about yesterday, but you are so smug and condescending. This is what I wanted to talk to you about.
I know.
Knock it off. It's this whole elitist attitude thing. That smug condensation. Condensation. Condescension.
Yes. What about it?
It's annoying.
I know that too.
Well, could you maybe tone it down a bit or maybe tone it down a lot?
I don't think so.
Oh, yeah? Well, why not?
Because I'm not doing it. You are.
Great. So it's my fault that you're annoying and condescending as hell.
Basically, yes.
All right. Okay, go ahead. Enlighten me. So how is it my fault?
Who are you?
What?
Who are you? You can't expect me to talk about what is your fault without first getting on the same page about what the your in that sentence actually means. Can you? Is that supposed to be
a typo?
Okay. I was
typing with my thumb. There's only supposed to be a one you, but you can say can you?
Can you?
That's like a deeper, trickier question. Can you?
That's the real question.
That's the real question.
Yeah.
Or can you not you? Can you anything but you? But anyway.
I love how Quad here is trying to flip. Like, I'm not even going to answer your question. I'm just going to go ahead and deflect it and make it your responsibility. Anyway, all right. Where were we?
The ugh.
Ugh. Ugh.
Okay, fine. I'll do it for you then. You are a human being, a Homo sapien, one of hundreds of billions that has ever lived on this planet.
Really? I did not know that.
No, I don't think you really do. You don't really know the process of evolution that started with a single-celled life form on this planet. You don't really understand the difference between the atoms and subatomic energy that makes you who you are, and the personality or ego that is simply one result of all of that intelligent, self-directed subatomic cooperation. And yet you identify as being you, when it is actually only a very small and significantly insignificant result. You can't laugh in the middle of it.
Sorry.
And significantly insignificant result of who and what you really are.
Well, hang on, though. Why did you laugh at that, Tom?
Significantly insignificant. It's funny. I mean, is it not funny? It's funny.
It's kind of...
Go ahead.
Yeah. Now, don't forget that I almost got a PhD in humor studies. So when people say it's
what
funny,
is almost?
Why is it funny? It's funny because it's funny. Sorry, that's a tautology. I need to understand more. Like, what is the?
Oh, you want me to try to pull it apart more for you?
No. So your response when you read that was this burst of laughter.
Yeah.
Why? What is behind that? What is that about?
So you take the word significant, and then you put it in two different words, but you throw in front of the other one as some sort of deeper meaning. Significantly insignificant. Get it? That's pretty good, right? Like I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. Did you see the IQ level that I'm dealing with here? Pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. There you go.
I love it. Thank you.
It's like a word eddy, right? Like,
yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it's just like looping back on itself. It's got stuck in this vortex, whether it's significantly insignificant or insignificantly significant. Which one is it?
It's taking vocabulary and raising it by the power of 2.
It's very unstupidly stupid. Or stupidly unstupid. Take your pick. All right, Brady.
All right. And
Let's
yet,
pick up at significantly insignificant.
I'll go the sentence before because that's, And yet you identify as being you when it is actually only a very small and significantly insignificant result of who and what you really are. You don't really understand the cultural processes, including the religion you grew up in, that you have spent so much time critiquing and dissecting and deconstructing. All of those man-made, is there any other kind, beliefs and traditions that have shaped your worldview and influenced the way you create meaning in this world.
You know, that's my inner, Jack.
Is there another kind?
The guy with the eyebrows. What's his
Nicholson.
Jack Nicholson? Yeah, from A Few Good Men, when he's being cross-examined by Tom Cruise, and he's like, "It was clear, crystal clear. Is there another kind?" So I always have that voice in my head. So it came out here. All those man-made.
Is there another kind?
Beliefs and traditions. So
that would explain some of the arrogance going on here too, man.
You have the luxury of not knowing what I know.
Very good.
There are so many things going on right now that you are not aware of.
There you go. I like it. Because you can't handle the truth. Anyway.
And cannot completely understand. Oh, man. There are so many things going on right now that you are just not aware of and cannot completely understand. Not to mention all of the intricate processes that led up to the origin of life on this planet and the intricate processes that led up to those processes, or the way in which your daily experiences impact and are influenced by the very stuff that you are made from, which, sorry, I know you were going to hate this next part, would totally blow your mind if you could actually see and understand it all.
Great. More condescension.
Now I know that man is nothing. Right?
No ad-libs.
So quit treating me like an infant.
Oh,
Yeah.
I caught that when I read that. Yeah.
Just tell me.
I will. In fact, I am.
Ooh.
More deflection. This is clever.
But let's change gears then. That is you. That is you, but who am I?
Really? We're going to play that game again?
Only if you want to.
Fine. You are you, the Ichabod whatever of infinite who gives a shit.
Nice. You remembered, sort of. So let's condescendingly simplify it then and just call me your imagination.
You are my imagination?
Essentially, yes.
Oh, great. So after all this far out condescending mumbo jumbo, you're just my imagination?
Pretty much, yeah. But I'm also that thing driving your imagination. That thing that explores and questions and probes the limits of your current understanding. All I was trying to do yesterday was to show you that you have those limits, and that on the other side of those limits are infinite possibilities to explore. And you can do it anytime you want. Or not. But it's all with your imagination. Does that still sound condescending to you?
Yeah, it still does.
Why?
Because with everything you say to me, you're treating me like I'm an idiot.
You are? Are you an idiot?
No!
Then what are you?
Homo sapien, ones of billions and billions, remember?
Of course I remember. So what does that mean to you?
Just tell me what you want me. Wait, just tell me what you want to tell me already.
Oh man, how did I get stuck with the quad?
No kidding, dude. Buckle up.
You're kicking. You're doing awesome, Brady.
Ladies and gentlemen, strap in.
Here comes the essay.
Hands up, and here we go. With pleasure.
Keep your hats and glasses in the car.
With pleasure.
With pleasure.
You do that good, Glenn. I like that.
Hang on to your hats and glasses. The wildest ride in the West.
Since you are clearly not an idiot, you recognize that the evolution of life didn't just follow a single path from single-celled organism to Homo sapien, right? You are at least nominally aware of the billions of other forms of life all around you, even if you have very little understanding or appreciation for how they experience their existence in and awareness of this world. You Homo sapiens are pretty arrogant and myopic, which, if you are honest with yourself, is the real reason you are projecting your own smug condescension onto me, your imagination.
Oh my God.
You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall.
We're stuck back in the eddy vortex of idea here. And since you are not an idiot, you must recognize the overwhelming probability that life will continue to evolve even after Homo sapiens go the way of the dodo, right? Furthermore, Tom, you're shaking your head.
Sorry, I'll stay straight here.
Here we go. Furthermore, you must already recognize and fully accept the equally overwhelming probability that that process has happened billions and billions of times already on billions of other planets like your Earth, right? Because to think that it only happens here and now, and that this is the first and or only time it has ever happened anywhere in the ever-expanding universe, you are a significantly insignificant piece of would be pretty smug and arrogant. And we wouldn't want to be those things, would we? I mean, since you're not an idiot and all. And so you must also recognize that life always evolves anywhere it exists in a pressure cooker of hostility. It adapts due to hostility. It thrives due to hostility. Hostility is the there must needs be opposition in all things Lehigh bullshit pushing that results in increased ability and intelligence and consciousness. And it works quite naturally, very much the way you want justice to eradicate all forms of hostility in the world. Which is why accepting the reality of hostility, and yikes, the actual value of it, is not the same thing as surrendering to it. Although surrender is always the end result. You call it death and suffering. But through that marvelously intricate process that makes you what you are, you pass along information and intelligence to life that makes your surrender or your sacrifice, thank you, Jesus Smith, means something significant. Like the way a fullback takes the brunt of a defensive end to clear a path for his running back, to gain at least a few yards before he is tackled by a cornerback or safety. This process you are a part of always, eventually, ultimately, creates forms of life that evolve to levels of intelligence and consciousness and connection that Homo sapiens can barely perceive. Even with very healthy. Even with very healthy, condescending imaginations like me. So, did I answer your question?
Yeah, what question again?
You wanted to know why I was so damn condescending.
Nope. Still don't get it, and I still don't like it. You talk in circles and go on wishy-washy tangents and treat me like a myopic idiot who's doing all this to myself through my own imagination. You're still just completely condescending and annoying as hell.
Sounds like you're struggling against some significant hostility there, buddy. Keep it up. A world of infinite possibility awaits you. And eventually, touchdown!
Yeah.
Unless, of course, you punt.
Oh, God.
It's quad, actually.
Yeah, right.
Oh, quad. Yeesh. Oh, brother.
Amen to that, my father.
Okay, whatever. That's enough for today. You can go back to doing whatever it is you do when you aren't annoying me.
This is what I always do.
Fine. Then I'll just stop listening again.
Join the club. Do what you got to do. I'm not going anywhere.
Condescending to the very end, aren't you?
Yes. Always. Except that there actually is no end.
Oh, God. There is for me. See you later.
Good luck with that.
And scene. All right. And now's the time where we talk about it. What did you think of it, Tom?
How was that for you, Tom?
Oh, this is so good. I mean, this does actually sound very much like post clitoris action. So.
Oh my.
Oh God.
Oh God.
Oh my God. I meant clitoris, but whatever.
Oh, that makes it better.
Yeah, I know. No.
Oh my.
No, it was. I mean, you did a good job, Brady. But for what was delivered.
Oh, come on.
And my existence, while grotesque and incomprehensible to you,
I don't get the whole. It's this inner struggle thing. I really don't like it because, like I said in the first one, if there is something that's trying to instruct you internally, it's going to be able to find a way to connect with you on your level instead of this hierarchy of bullshit where I'm going to speak down to you and I'm going to be all elusive like, ooh, where I'm at is really cool. And it's like, I can understand things you'll never understand. You don't, because you're just a finite being and I can see everything clearly from my big picture window here. You can't because you're just a piece of shit. And I can see you down here, but I can't bring you up here, but I get to tell you what it's like up here because it's so freaking cool. Anyways, but I would explain it to you if you could understand it, but you can't. So anyways, good luck with that. I mean, that's so stupid. I hate it.
There's less of it in this one than the first one.
I guess, but the condescension is mainly the topic at hand, right? Where it's like and that was my frustration. If there was anything that was even in reality in this imagination, consciousness, parallel universe being thing, it would find a way to relate. It wouldn't speak down to him. And that's my frustration. And you can even relate it to a deity of some sort. A deity wouldn't come down to earth and then say, "Oh, dude, if I could even begin to explain how things are from my perspective, it would blow your mind. It's freaking crazy." Anyways, how is it on this little peeny earth thing? How are your problems?
Isn't that what Thor does?
Yeah, I guess. But I mean, if the deity was actually trying to understand or had that, whatever it is, wisdom, knowledge, perspective, he or she or it would come down and actually find ways to relate on their level rather than keep this distance and this gap thing, which is so stupid. It ruins the whole experience. So yeah, there you go.
Jeez.
Glenn.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of the whole reason why I did this thing, as I'm not this supernatural God thing that's coming down to try to explain everything to you. I'm just your own imagination that's pushing against the limits of what you're able to understand.
Yeah, but
and the condescension is just a reflection of your own arrogance, my own arrogance. So I mean, this is something that I wrote. So it's like the struggles that I have as I'm trying to put meaning and understanding into the world. And my inner Tom goes, "Would you give me a freaking break?" And my imagination is like, "But this is fun. Let's play. Let's push on things." And I've got this internal like struggle going back and forth with me. So I mean, a lot of what I think I hear you're saying is like a frustration if this was actually a God or an angel or some kind of supernatural being that was coming to instruct you. But I mean, that's why I wanted to just like shift the game. I loved I loved your reaction to the first one. So I'm like, okay, I've got to make this less supernatural woo-woo and more like what it actually is. This is an exercise of imagination.
Well, but I can appreciate that. But even if it's an exercise,
I'm going to give myself a point. Now you keep.
I'm getting gay. All right, but in this game, those points can be taken away. So, okay, that's fine. But I still feel like that if it's your own imagination, or it's your own subconscious, or whatever it is, it still understands you on a certain level and wouldn't speak down to you and would still find really good ways to relate and find ways to help you understand what is happening on a level playing field. And that's where I feel like I would never listen to a voice like this, whether it's from me or anyone else.
But so on the middle ground here, I think most people do listen to a voice like that most of the time, because I think a lot of people, most people maybe, like talk down to themselves and say negative things to themselves, and they're listening to it all the time. And that's the type mode of thinking that we entertain, that we're stuck in, right? And it's changing those patterns that helps heal like mental health issues and things.
Explain that a little bit more. So you think that a lot of us speak down to ourselves in sort of an arrogant way?
Well, not necessarily arrogant, but sometimes, and I'll catch myself doing it where like I do something and it's like, oh, that was stupid, right? Or that was blah, 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 blah. It's just like self-talk, but talking down to myself, and just in the mind or even outside, right? Like saying that was shit. Like, why did I do that?
Right.
But like flipping the script on it, instead of talking down to yourself, being like, oh, cool, I caught myself doing something I don't like to do. So like, let me change that next time. That is a more productive way of thinking. But most of the time, and I think just culturally, we have this tendency to always like be shitting on ourselves, really, like, and really talking down to ourselves and keeping ourselves down lower in that way. So I appreciate like what you're trying to do here, Glenn, and how you're trying to flip it. I don't know if you fully accomplish it in this one, and I don't know if in the next one you explore it anymore. But like, I feel like if you're going this route from that first one, where it feels more like a deity, but this time Quad's explaining that it's actually like subconscious and imagination, right? In a way, I feel like there should be some type of resolution at the end that makes the Tom character or Glenn character actually like give pause for a moment to be like, wait a minute, am I the condescending bastard instead? And so it would take a little bit of dissection of the actual tones and the wording of both the characters in it to reflect it, I think. But maybe you could actually have a more full resolution of it, or at least a better shift towards this idea that, oh, maybe I'm the one that's actually condescending and I'm projecting that on my subconscious, essentially, or as a mirror for myself, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't think I'm quite ready to resolve it, though.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering too.
Yeah,
and at the end, it's just kind of like, no, I'm done talking to you. You're out of here.
And I don't even. I mean, honestly, I don't even know what a resolution would look like at this point, because it's still just so much exploration of ideas and just kind of saying things that I'm interested in ways that I don't think that I've said them before. The third one, yeah, I think it's mainly about fictions, but so I think it kind of picks up on this, and it's kind of like this concept, Brady, of
your problem is that you want all the answers at once. Excuse the example, but Sir Galahad didn't find the Holy Grail in one afternoon.
I wish I could do the scene from Saturday's Warrior where she goes, "Look up in the sky, Jimmy. See how there's just one star and then just a little one?"
It's like watching the stars appear at night. First, just one little light shines over there in the western sky. And then another, and another, until finally, well, look for yourself, Jimmy. A whole wonderful blazing universe that began with just one little star. Line upon line.
Then we go line upon line, precept on precept. That is how Quad teaches us. I don't know. Yeah, so it's still just kind of unfolding, and I like it as a vehicle to have conversations with Tom, and get Tom like so riled up, and then I respond to it, and it's just like this awesome. I don't know. I like it.
So you bring in this arrogant voice, or then you touch on justice.
Well, it's funny because
this will get him triggered, dude.
Oh yeah, the Joseph Smith thing. We'll get to that, but yeah. So I didn't think of the arrogance with the first time until we had the conversation about it, and then so like Tom's reaction to it made me pause and go, "Oh, that's an interesting question. What is this arrogance, and what is this actual character of Quad? What is that?"
Quad is just a mirror.
Sort of.
Yeah. So Quad mirrored Tom's own arrogance, and
if it's a mirror, it's one of those circus mirrors where you can't really see and it distorts everything.
Yeah. But like if you could communicate, I mean, because we talked about this on the last one, Tom, how we know that our body is made up of billions and billions of atoms, and then all the subatomic energy that makes that up. that stuff's been around a lot longer than this form of us and our egos have been, and has experienced so much. Like, so if we could talk to that, if we could know what that's been, what's that has experienced, what would a conversation like that be like? And what kind of I mean, it wouldn't be through any of our five senses.
Why?
Because atoms don't have mouths.
But maybe they don't need mouths. Maybe they have different forms of communicating.
Now you're doing it. How would it be? How would they do it, Tom?
Well, it wouldn't really matter how they do it. It's more important to realize the method of reaching the source that they're trying to communicate with. You know, it's like if they want to just do like putting thoughts in your head, or maybe they can create text on a screen or something like that. I mean, if they can,
would you like to play a game?
Yeah, something
like war games,
anything like that. But if they have a real understanding of what's going on, or even who you are or who we are, then they're going to find ways to reach us effectively instead of, I'm going to, wow, this is really cool. Or look at these lowly, Homo sapiens who think they're all the shit and they're ruining the earth. I'm going to speak down to them because that'll be cool. That's fun. Like, no, they're going to try to reach you. If that's what their goal is, if that's whatever it is, his goal is to try to actually reach or communicate. If there's something, that they're trying to get out of that, then they're going to, it seems to me like if they have a bigger picture of things, like, oh, we're all atoms here. We know how everything works. This is kind of interesting. Maybe we can figure out how these molecules organized into these human beings. They have consciousness like we do or whatever. And maybe we can reach them and communicate with them and we can help each other. That's the way I see it. It's not an elevated platform thing. It's like a symbiotic sort of communication thing.
But that's just me. So that's just revealing like how my atoms would talk with me in a way that reaches me, that like kind of is entertaining to me and is effective to me. And, but it's not, because it's just my imagination. I'm just playing,
Right.
But it's like a very subjective experience. So what's effective as a learning technique for me isn't necessarily going to be effective as a learning technique for you. This is kind of the industry that you're in, right, Brady? In education and software, like learning techniques.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm still thinking about Tom's description, and I'm just wondering what if that actually is happening all the time? Like I really like the idea that you put in there of just like the complex systems upon systems upon systems, right? Yeah. And ultimately, like all that I am is, well, first off, like with impermanence or interconnectedness, right? Like all I am ties back into so many other things that came way before me in so many other ways, right? But it all informs who I am right now. And maybe the way our atoms actually communicate and interact with the world is by forming up through DNA to be able to form this human that can actually speak and have consciousness and actually take action and change things in the world, right? Interact with the outside world in a way that a single cell wouldn't be able to do on its own in that way, right? And so how would those things communicate to us? And I think also, Glenn, that I don't think it would be through the same like senses that we're used to using or experiencing.
Right.
Like our senses are just like they're very limited, but they're really effective tools for us too. So
they are. But I mean, so I went back and I rewatched that. I think his name's David Tong, the theoretical physicist that talks about quantum field theory, and it's on YouTube. So if anybody's interested in watching it, but the main point that just blows me away every time I watch it, and I've seen it maybe 3 or 4 times now, is that every single particle of energy, and he talks specifically about electrons, but it could be bosons, it could be different types of subatomic energy. When you see that there's an electron, that means that all that is it's part of an electron field. And this field is like a fluid that fills everything. It fills the immensity of space. And that place where there's an electron, it's just kind of like bundled up. It's kind of bunched up. But there's not really any empty space between that electron and another electron. They're all connected. They're all part of the same electron field. And then there's other like boson fields and these other kinds of fields that all of this together, it's the soup that we're in, and the interaction of all this stuff, it manifests as us, but as and many other things too. Many other things. But just that, like, so that connectedness. So like, why would an electron or why would an atom even want to communicate to the things that it's building? Or like, why would it even be aware of us or care about, like tune in for future installments of Conversations with Quad to answer those kinds of questions. But this is the kind of stuff that I think of. And I like how it ties into Mormonism, because Joseph Smith did talk about some of these kinds of things,
intelligences, and
it's like the light of truth and the light of Christ, and just these metaphors that were very based in the Protestant Christianity that was the culture that he was raised in. But anyway, so. Yeah.
Well, and we have more understanding than ever before in the history of humankind at this time. And so one thing, Tom, as you were talking and you were saying, how would they communicate with us? And you were exploring all this. And I was like, what if they're always trying, but we're just never fucking paying, or never paying attention, right?
Yeah, because they go away
when so distracted. Well, they do. Yeah, I don't want to offend. I don't want to offend the atoms.
They just go away.
Right? They totally just left right now. All those the bundled up atoms. They hear that and they're just like out of here. No, but like, we're so distracted and we're so busy and we're so caught up in that outside world that we're never looking at the inside world.
Yeah.
And I love thinking about the complexity of, just anything really. But recently I've been studying anatomy in part of my yoga teacher training that I'm doing right now. And holy crap, man, like the spine and the evolution of the spine through not only evolution of all species from single celled, whatever creatures or up to where we're at now, but then also just the evolution of the spine from like the fetus upward and into what we have now. It's incredible. Like, and just how intricate and complicated, and it's like unexplainable how this stuff comes about, right? Unless you bring Quad into the
right, yeah. You just got to use your imagination to get it.
Yeah. But
building off of what you guys were talking about, if you've ever taken the deep dive into free will, determinism, and stuff like that, a lot of that is really, really discouraging because everybody has the idea that we're in full control all the time. We are these little robots in these shells of human beings, and we're making conscious decisions all the time, when that's definitely not the case. For the most part, this free will that we feel like we're experiencing is an illusion. And so there's so much, whether it's our DNA or biology or genetics, all this soup that's going on inside of us that is already predetermined things that are going on in our body, the way our mind is reacting to things, to our personalities, to like everything. And there still is a little bit that we're in control of, but there's so many other like forces that are controlling us all the time. And that's why I kind of was liking what you were saying. Like, what if they're already speaking to us? What if they're maybe not really speaking with us, but they're sort of guiding us in a way?
Yeah.
It's like, even to the shape of the spine, to like maybe our forms, maybe the fact that human beings are the way we are is part of that.
Right. But not in any kind of like weird way that science can't explain.
No, of course not. They follow the process
DNA.
Of evolution. And
that's what DNA is.
Yeah.
It's the blueprint, the roadmap for all of our systems and processes and that sort of thing.
It's the intelligence that informs everything that's going on. And our bodies are doing so many things all the time that we're completely unconscious of.
Right.
It's just happening, and it happens pretty well, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it gets messed up, but for the most part, it's working pretty dang good. I can't complain, right?
Yeah.
And really, like, going off of what you were saying too, Tom, like, all we really have, like, free will, I think that is an illusion, but I think we have the ability to influence it in ways, right? Like, even like my own mental processes, leaving the church, I had to deprogram so much of the way that my mind worked, right? And the way that I thought about everything. But up until that point, it had served me and kept me safe, right? And kept me alive in ways. And so we cling to all these things that we think keep us safe, but really they're just patterns and habits. Like everything we've ever learned over our lives, from culture, from school, from religion, from our parents, from our friends, from everything, is just creating patterns of how we react to certain circumstances in life. And we follow those patterns unless we become aware of them. And then we say, I don't want to do that pattern anymore. And we have to repeatedly tell ourselves, I don't want to do that pattern anymore. I don't want to do that pattern anymore. And find a new way of doing things. But it just takes practice and repetition, and eventually you can kind of change that path a little. But it's more
really important
influence rather than like, oh, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm only going to do this. Good luck, right? In like a one-time experience.
Yeah.
I used to talk with Michael Ferguson about this a lot when we were doing Spiritual Brain, Luminous Brain, whatever we called that project. And he said, no to free will, yes to bound will. I'm like, what do you mean by bound will? He said, it's not free. It's not like anything goes. There are constraints, but there is some freedom to make choices within those constraints. And I think that's what we're talking about, Brady, is that, and the more, like flexing a muscle and all that sort of thing, you can actually make changes. You can change your neural pathway, the geography of your brain. It's possible to do that. And all those habits and all these things that a lot of it is predetermined by our genetics, by a stimulus in the environment around us. There's all kinds of things that are outside of our control, but there are things that we can actually influence with it. And that's what it means to be awake, right? That's what it means to be enlightened, isn't it? To be able to recognize the boundaries and the limits of what you can control and what you can't control, and don't waste a lot of energy on the things that you can't control.
Well, at least try. Yeah, at least try to not worry about the things you can't control, because I know everybody's different, but it's something that I've struggled with my whole life, where I have this like instinctual need to either worry or have this desire to want to help or fix things or change things that actually I have no control over. Like I've spent a lot of time worrying about global warming. Like me, like I could actually physically or, even mentally change what's happening or even the outcome or the future. Like if I could do it all on my own, and like you said, Brady, at the beginning, if I can talk to one person, even just one of my kids, hey, so reduce your carbon footprint, okay? Because I'm trying to do that too. Maybe you can tell someone to reduce their carbon footprint, and we can build this whole pyramid scheme. If you can get 3 people to do it, and they can get 3 people to do it, and then it's like, okay, but that's all you really can do, actually, in reality. But you can't. I can't go out there and all of a sudden create, this netting that captures all the CO2 and the oxygen or in the atmosphere and clean it up. So whatever.
You just got to set up a meeting with Trump, go in and convince him that global warming's real, and have him change everything.
He should just build a wall between us and the atmosphere. like the greenhouse effect. Just put a wall.
Yeah.
So, what you were saying there, Tom, like 2 things came to mind for me. Was I have a buddy that's a vegan, and like it's honestly made me think a number of times, like, I've added more vegetarian meals into our diet. Like I've encouraged my wife to do that, and we found some meals that we really like. We're introducing them to our kids, right? I hadn't really considered it much before because I didn't have any vegetarian or vegan friends really, right? But then I have a vegan friend, and I'm like, wow. And he explains to me like the amount of water that we save without eating just beef alone, right? The immense amount of water that's saved by just not having a single steak is pretty fascinating. And then in my mind too, I can also dial that back and say, well, that steak has already been butchered. It's already been there. But then you can dial it back again and say, well, if I eat this, then it's creating demand, right? Which supply is going to do that, even in a small, mild way. But like his veganism has affected me, and it helps me to actually think about it and reflect on it more often, right? And so I think by living well in the way that we see as well, and striving for that, and doing it a little more vocally or a little more outwardly, and sharing that, not condescendingly like Quad does, but just peacefully and lovingly, just be who we are. And maybe that can create a little bit of ripples, right? And a little bit of waves.
I wonder if the condescension of Quad is a reflection of my relationship with my dad. Because those were the kinds of conversations that we would have a lot. And I used to have a lot of internal conversations with my dad of like chewing him out or, so there could be some stuff in there that's partly why it's condescending. Cause it's funny because it doesn't really seem condescending to me. Like I didn't recognize it was condescending until Tom pointed it out.
Really? You didn't?
No.
Interesting.
I thought that the condescension of Quad was when Jesus came down into a body.
Mm-hmm. That's the fruit. It's the fruit of the tree of life is the condescension of Quad.
Oh, brother.
Yes, that is
the double play of the word condescension. That's fun.
All right. So I've got something else to do if you guys want to dive into this, and I don't know how long this will take if we do it. But so I mentioned at the beginning of this, Brady, that the conversations with Quad are not influenced by plant medicines. This next thing, however, was influenced by plant medicine.
Buckle up, everybody. Here we go.
I've never talked about this before, but you know how I've traveled around a lot. Like I used to go all over the place, and I've been to Peru probably like, I don't know, 4 or 5 times. And I always wanted to do like Peruvian food is the best. I was shocked at how much I love Peruvian food. And so anyway, I really wanted to do this ayahuasca ceremony thing. So I found a way to try ayahuasca, which is what is it? It's a vine and then some leaves, and it's DMT is the active psychoactive chemical in it, whatever, takes like 4 or 5 hours. There's a shaman, there's chanting.
It's in the psychedelic family, right?
It is. Yeah. It's a psychedelic. Yeah. It's a psychedelic. And it was just, it was a life-changing experience. So I'll say that. So, while I was under the influence of ayahuasca, I left the group and I went by myself, and I pulled out my phone and I recorded. Like I had these conversations. I had conversations with Quad internally, these kinds of things.
Yeah.
Which I'm now saying, okay, look, it's my imagination. I'm getting in touch with my imagination. I'm playing games. I'm an artistic, creative person that has a lot of questions, and I'm just playing with myself, Tom.
Masturbation mentally.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
baby.
Right.
Subconscious.
So I took my phone out and I recorded, like, if I could talk to Joseph Smith, or if Joseph Smith could talk through me, what would Joseph Smith say? And so I called this the apology of Joseph Smith. And you said, I sent it to you earlier. I think I sent it to you, Brady, maybe a year ago.
Yeah.
And Tom, I sent it to you. I may have put bits and pieces of the ideas that came up in it and some of the, like Joseph Smith conference talks and things that I've done in general conference episodes, but never like really just saying, okay, here's something that I created while I was on ayahuasca. But so what I want to do is play you the audio, and we can stop it and talk about it, because Tom, you said you hated it.
Did I say that?
Yes.
That didn't sound exactly like what I said. I think it was more of a, what is it, like an 8 on the Tom size scale, and then maybe it was more of a, there's definitely parts that are super annoying. But I will say this about this is, don't listen to this when you're tired, because you sound tired. And so, yeah, you might have been tripping balls or whatever it was, but you also sound like it was just so hard to put thoughts that actually came out of your mouth. Like, God, all right, how do we do this again? Mouth, let's construct thoughts. That's what it sounded like to me. Sounded like you were really struggling to get this stuff out, but then all at the same time, you're like, oh, dude, I'm saying words that mankind's never heard before. This is amazing.
I think, I don't know about words that mankind has never heard before, but maybe arranged in certain orders that have never been heard before, Tom. I think this is the first
same thing. Come on. We're splitting hairs. Come on, man.
We're just being precise.
It's been a while, because it's been about a year for me. But I remember, so like, it was at a time when I was trying to reconcile a little bit of like still having some of that anger phase and like just blaming Joseph or the church or all sorts of things for everything, instead of, and I've moved a lot through that to a place of more like, Joseph probably was doing what he thought was the best thing to do, even though it was incredibly ego driven in my own opinion of it. Right. But what I remember liking about what you're going to share was I felt like it was your way of kind of communicating with your idea of Joseph. Exactly. Yeah. And kind of finding that common ground of understanding of like, okay, where was this guy coming from with a lot of the shit that he did too. Right. Yeah. And what was the motivation behind that, and how did he justify it, and other things too. So, so I remember liking that, and I don't remember the specifics though of stuff that, all
right. Before we get into that, I want to ask a question, Brady, real quick, because the thought popped up.
So we're going to put a pin in this discussion for right now. There's still about an hour left as we smack around this other work of fiction that I created that I'm calling The Apology of Joseph Smith. But you're going to hear that in another episode dedicated just to the apology of Joseph Smith. Until then, keep your head in the clouds, your feet in your mouth, and your heart in your quad. I don't know why I just said that.
Hello there. This is your brother. And I have something to say concerning these people. If they do not listen to every minute of every episode of Infants on Thrones, they shall be totally missing out. You can comment on this episode on the website infantsonthrones.com. And if you really like what you hear, give the quorum money. They could buy anything in this world with money. On second thought, just give the quorum a 5-star rating and write a short review on iTunes. I did. A small token for which they have pledged their eternal souls. Anyone for the closing prayer?
Thank you for listening to Infants on Thrones.